But just before we start, I want to also remind you again that there are a lot of things that we are discussing in this training. This login code, this revised code, is really not much difference from the previous one. Okay, but there are certain parts of the code that may not be very clear to us, you and me. If you're not clear, please, like what Geno said, make sure that you understand it before you go back. Because maybe there may not be any other time to share this type of information amongst ourselves. So we have a same understanding of the code. It's not good that I have a different understanding, you have a different understanding, John has different. And when we come to apply it in the field, we apply it totally differently. And we get our partners, the industry, confused. And that's not what we want. We need to be speaking and saying the same things. So please, if you have time tonight, or I know tonight you'll be really tired, but whenever you have the free time, just go through it. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. Maybe this is the first time you've seen this revised code. So find some time to just skim through it and have a look at it. Even if you have to make some comparisons with the old code. All right. It's always very good to make comparisons so that you understand what is the old code and what is the new code. So you can, it helps you to make good decisions out there in the field when you apply it in the field. Okay. Just for those who do not know me, I know quite a few of you, but there are a lot of you that I unfortunately don't know, and maybe you don't know me too, so I need to introduce myself. My name is Simon Peter. I have a surname which is very long, so just call me SP. My friends call me SP. Everybody in forestry knows me as SP, so just call me SP. I am a forester, not ex-forester, but an ex-forest authority employee. Right? I used to be with Forestry Southern Region the last 24 years until 2007. I left Forest Authority. I joined the private sector since 2007 until now. So I used to be in your position. I used to be doing the same job that you are doing now. So, we kind of in the same field. So feel free to challenge me if you think that whatever I'm telling you is not correct. It's a learning process. I learn from you, you learn from us. Or we learn from you, you learn from us. If we disagree on certain things, please, it's very healthy that we need to discuss and come up with an understanding. A lot of these things in the new code is, I must admit, very complicated. It might be easy for you, but for me it's a bit complicated. But as time goes on, as we start to implement it, give and take, we will start to understand, and hopefully if it's user-friendly, good. If it's not user-friendly, let's revise it again. Why not? We need to have a document that is appropriate and applicable in the field. Not some document which is very scientific and it's not practical out there in the field, right? You and I are practical people. We are practical foresters, not academics. We need to apply whatever is there. If it's not applicable, let's revise it. Put in something that is much, much more applicable out there. You agree, yeah? Okay. I'll just skip this. That's just the outline, so skip it. Keep going. All right, so we're talking about roads here. Now, roads in any logging operation is very fundamental. Without roads, I mean, how do we get our logs out to the log port? So, in terms of road constructions, we need to have road standards, proper road standards. Because without proper standards, you will have roads which are more destructive than, productive. All right. So roads and ski tracks must be or should be constructed according to climate and soil type or materials that are available. There are certain areas in your projects some of you may have proper roading materials. Some areas maybe don't. Like for here in Western Britain, maybe Eastern Britain, we have very good source of gravel materials. In areas like in the southern region, Western Gulf, they hardly have any gravel materials. So you need to, for them, they need to construct roads based on whatever materials that they have, in order that they can construct them in a way it's appropriate standards. The pavement should be constructed with gravel or fine material. And in terms of fine material, you're talking about sand, silt, or clay. We should also avoid using those rounded gravel, the river gravel. I think the reason being that when it's round, it's smooth. You use it on the road surface, it's slippery. Even if you compact it, sometimes when rain falls, mud goes onto the rounded stones or gravel, it's so slippery. This is common sense. You all know about that, so I don't have to tell you. A lot of this you have experienced it, so I don't really need to go through all of it. Corals, I don't know where people use corals as roading material. I haven't experienced that. Maybe in Eastern Britain, maybe Western Britain. Appropriate machinery for every particular phase of road construction. Now, there are some roads that have been constructed using excavator, some using dozers. So there are certain parts of the road you need to use appropriate machinery. Road corridor. You are all very familiar with this. This is one of the key standards. What key standard is this? Huh? Huh? I also forgot, but I think it's key standard number 5, right? If you have your PMC procedures set up there are key standards. Please try and memorize them. By the way, just on key standards, if we have time, we will go through the key standards for the sake of those who are not very familiar with them. But in the past, in the old code, we had these 24 key standards. It's in the PMC procedures. These were the standards that were most of our field staff were using. The full code was too bulky to carry around, so what they did was carry the pocket size. And I understand the next project our friends are trying to help us with is to develop that key standard again. But a little bit of amendments to include the amendments in the revised code. Okay, so the road must always follow where the surveys have gone through. Sometimes there are deviations to this road. This is very important. You must understand this, and you must always try to apply this. If there is any deviation whatsoever, and we will cover that in the PMC procedures, any deviation whatsoever, what do? The company should apply for deviation. They should not go ahead and construct different route without your approval. This is very important in terms of the planning, monitoring, and control procedures, which we will cover tomorrow. All right? Maximum road clearance, we all know it's 40 meters. All right? So you can refer that to figure 10 if you are not very familiar in your code. Again, parallel roads should not be allowed. This happens everywhere. Like I mentioned about the ski tracks, it also happens with logging roads. So please try to ensure that this should not happen. The more you allow this, the more destruction to the forest you will have. Fell trees towards the road. This is also very straightforward. Where practical, road locations should avoid mangroves, swamps, wetlands, drainage depressions. Road mentioned about buffers for that purpose. But again, if you read through the code, like what Geno said, there are statements like will and should. Will, there's no argument about that. It has to be done. Should now comes back to decision by you, whether you should allow it or not. It's subject to your judgment. Okay? So most of the should statements are actually reflecting on your judgments. Next. Road should avoid buffer zones and special management buffer zones. Now, what is special management? Anybody knows? Okay, it's in the code, revised code. Special management buffer zones are things like biodiversity trees. You know, if you surveyors walking in the bush and they come across a cluster of trees where birds and couple and everything else, you know, in a certain unit area, then that whole area should be marked out as special management area. That's what. Special management area can also be caves or tumbuna areas or sacred sites, even erodible, highly erodible areas, soils. No, these are special management areas. That's what they mean by that. Where road construction is close to streams, you should ensure that soils runoffs does not enter the stream by minimizing clearing width, stockpiling back cuts, spoils outside buffer zones. I think it's very, very straightforward. Most times you see when they're trying to construct, especially at the river crossings, those operators they're very careless, most of them. I know because I've seen them. So you try your best to tell them to start clearing the soil back into the forest rather than into the stream. In that way, they will move the soil back into where it's supposed to be stockpiled, outside of the buffer next. And they should be constructed when it's dry. We don't know what happens when it's wet. Road materials should be consolidated before, trucking them away during wet weather. Topsoil on roads and landings should be stockpiled separately for use in rehabilitation purposes. We all know that the topsoil is taken out usually during road construction. It's always nice to stockpile it so that we can use it later to rehabilitate bare areas or ski tracks or landings or this kind of thing. Next, please. Okay, this one you can refer to figure 10, I think. Cut butters. These are some terms that are new, but when the road is being constructed, you all know what cut gutter is. You you check your code. I think it's figure 10 or 12. You know, if this is a road and a mountain, and it's coming down, so you have to cut. I'm not very good at that drawing. This is a slope. If it's too slopey, they have to cut, you know, kind of some platform about that, just like that. You know, yeah. Huh? Yeah, of course the slope. Yeah. This one is actually very important where you're constructing road up the slope. So this is very important. You can read, so I don't have to read everything. So next please. Stream crossings, these are in the old code. We all know that. The right angles. Avoid box cuts when you are trying to reach the streams. Sometimes it's unavoidable. So in instances like this, we try to minimize the width. Stream crossings should be designed to maintain natural stream alignment. Okay, so you know, if it's wide or whatever, the stream crossing should be aligned to the size of the stream. Okay. Now this one is very important. The last one, road crossings should be downstream of water collection points. Water collection points usually are class 3 streams. All right, class 3 streams. So the code says any road crossings should be, especially near villages. If there is going to be a road next to a village, be very mindful about this. If any road that is crossing the stream, it should, as much as possible, be downstream of where the village people are. But if it's upstream, then it must be at least 2 kilometers above. You have to put buffer. At least 2 kilometers upstream. At least. You know why? Because with that buffer it can sit all the, all the stuff. Next please. Of course, you need to talk to the landowners and the people there to guide you as to where these stream crossings should be. Class 1 and 2 streams should generally be bridged. Class 3 should be bridged or culverted where possible. Log clusters are not allowed. That's in the old code also. Right. Ensure 50 meters either side of the stream crossing is well compacted. That's to minimize sediment runoffs. Within 50 meters of stream crossings, runoff from table drains should be diverted by culverts or turn out into surrounding vegetation. And figure 14 can explain it to you in picture form. Next please. Construction of bridges and stream crossings. Bridges should be constructed with enough headroom. It means that some rivers can overflow when it's flooding. So if there is going to be a bridge, it has to be way above where the high water mark is. It's common sense. Otherwise, every time the river floods, it overflows. Okay. The rest is straightforward. Log clusters and hollow logs will not be used. Will not be used. There are a lot of these I see in many logging areas. We must try to discourage this type of things. Okay, next. And if the company can afford to buy culverts, then that's the minimum dimensions. 307 millimeters diameter or 600 millimeters in high rainfall areas. Now, where there is a risk of overtopping at the downside of the crossing, there should be rocks put in to reduce the impact of the waterfall effect. Because usually during these crossings, if it's not, these things are not put in, then you tend to encourage, erosion of this kind of thing. Next. Road drainage, fully drained with crowns, table drains, culverts, turnout to minimize risk of erosion. I think it's straightforward. And then table 6 will show you what I mean here. Lock clusters again not allowed. Use appropriate size culverts. Okay. You are reading, so I don't have to read. Next. Culvert exit should be at ground level, so not to create a waterfall effect, sometimes you put a culvert where it's too high, and when the water gets into this culvert, then you find that it's going to go down this way, and the higher the culvert is, the more pressure it's coming down. So then that will encourage waterfall effect or erosion. So we should always try to put the culvert at ground level. Next. Okay, so regular grading to maintain roads, shade, fill potholes, gravel surface. On silty or clay road surfaces, regular maintenance is required. If gravel is used, it should be screened or crushed. And I mentioned that already about rounded gravel. So if there is any river gravel that you are using or company is using, if you have a crusher, by all means, please crush it before using it. I mean, that's what the code says, so we have to enforce that. I know for a fact that there are a lot of companies still using river gravel. And the interesting thing is they go right down into the riverbed to collect it. And I think this is against the code, so we need to try and discourage that. Some will argue that, but where will we get the gravel? Very good argument. So this is something that needs to be further discussed. Okay. Again, where parallel roads have developed, close off the parallel tracks. We need to close off the new road that has been constructed. The only way to do is to maintain whatever is the main road and close off the parallel tracks. Again, blading off must be avoided. This side and the boat. Next. And decommissioning, where required, remove all bridges, streams, culverts, and table drains. Excavators should be used where possible. Rip the road formation and allow regeneration. There are times when landowners might want to ask you to leave the road. I mean, that's fine. But just so that you are protected in the future, should anything happen, you need to have some form of written agreement. Some roads that are constructed may be turned into provincial roads. Again, we need to get some form of written agreements to safeguard you in the future should anything happen. Our landowners are getting smarter these days. After everything is gone and all the royalties dried up, they go and look for excuses and reasons to complain for compensation. So we need to protect ourselves. You need to protect the authority and yourself in this kind of scenario. One question that was raised by someone in Mose saying that decommissioning of roads, how do we decommission roads, the actual roads? Because the road can be very long. So how do we do that? I'm asking. What do we do to decommission the road? Roads that will not be used anymore. One way is to decommission the bridges. Just remove the bridges. Unless the road is going to be continuously used by the landowners, then leave the bridges. Again, agreement needs to be a The other way would be to put water bars along certain sections of the road to stop. But then again, if that's if you're going to decommission. Otherwise, just decommissioning and removing the bridge is enough already. Yes. Gravel extraction. A lot of issues surrounding this one. You all may have come across in your own situations about gravel being charged by landowners. And I think for TRP projects, we all know that gravel is free. What about FMA projects? Same or there is a fee charged? Same, free, yeah? Okay. Where possible, rolling material will be obtained from this road cutting. Roads should be planned so that volume in cutting and feeding is equal. Small-scale gravel pits not allowed within 50 meters of any stream or buffer. This is straightforward. It's in the old code. Sorry. Removal of river gravel should be avoided. I just mentioned that. Corals will not be used for gravel. Gravel pits also will have to be decommissioned. Now the question is, how do we decommission it? Any ideas? Fill it, yes. Somebody mentioned also in other region that we should fill it in. I think it's a good idea. We leave it like that, you know what would happen? Water pull up and it becomes another lake or something. While I'm going through, please feel free to ask any question that you want to ask. Because I'm going very fast. Oh, yes. Thank you. Next one. We need to go fast first.
Next one.
While we are going through in your mind, if you have any queries and if you don't want to raise your hands, just write it down.
Yeah.
You may not want to speak up what you have in mind, so feel free to write it down and hand it over. Likewise, if there is any burning issues you also make a customer, if it's affecting your work, whether it's administration or I have no authority to talk about administration, but just your work in terms of applying the code and the procedures. You find it difficult, feel free to raise it up, or if not, write it down and we have to discuss it in a general discussion on Friday. Okay, what's this one? Long pond. All right, next. This one is very short. Construction and maintenance, I think it's straightforward. We all are very experienced with this one. Must be located on well-drained soil for obvious reasons. All right? Because there's a lot of traffic in log ponds and log landings, so has to be always on well-drained soil. You know why I'm saying that. I don't have to. Excavators should be used for minimum disturbance. I see a lot of excavators in almost all log ponds, so this one is not a problem. But there are some projects that still use dozers. So if you have the opportunity to recommend for excavators, companies should be using excavators than dozers. Okay. This one's straightforward. Logs should be stacked properly, at least 50 meters away from the high water mark. This is a lot of problems in a lot of camps that I've visited. They stockpile the logs right down to where the salt water comes and touches the canal. So this one should be avoided. It has to be in 50 meters away from the high water mark. Please make sure that that's happening. Because during high tide, there is possibility that you have keen tides coming in, it will wash the logs into the sea, and we have a hazard on our hands. Retrieve any logs which float away or sink. A lot of camps that log ponds I go to, when during loading of log pontoons, some sinkers or some logs fall off. It happens every log pond and every loading. Some careless company operators just let it go, but as a requirement of the code, you need to get them to retrieve those logs. It's a hazard to the motorist, it's environmentally not good. Rehabilitate shoreline if its use is unavoidable. There are a lot of shorelines that have been used to load the logs. It's okay, there is no other option, but just get them to rehabilitate it when they are complete. And prevent the logs of cast remains from entering the sea. Next. You all know about it, so I don't want to continue to drag on it. Okay. Yeah. Drains, offcuts should be disposed of in a proper place, away from the high water mark, at least 50 meters away. Oil, fuel, and chemicals must be stored. This one is very important too. This is one of the most important things at the log pond. Just ensure that all these fuel, oil, chemicals must be stored at least 50 meters away. Many companies have seen their fuel tanks about 10 meters, away from us. The code is very specific. It has to be 50 meters or more away from the high water mark. And the reasons are very obvious, so we need to ensure that this must be done, always done. Next. Okay, so again, we have to take the log pond when that's finished. And to rid the area to enhance regeneration. Any waste materials remove and take and dispose of in the designated disposable area. These are some requirements of the Environment Planning Act, so we need to be very mindful about this. It's also required in the timber permits and environmental permits. So we have to really enforce this one. Okay. All right, just on log pond, Geno touched a little bit about someone's question about buffer. We all know that at the swamps and Namisa, log pond, it has to be 100 meters away. Many log ponds we see nowadays that were constructed pre logging code of practice is no way near complying with the logging code of practice, even the previous one. Because you will see that the log pond, the logs where the logs are stored, plus the workshop is in a very large, maybe 2-3 hectare of clearing. And we call that a log pond. But technically, it doesn't comply with the logging code of practice. So what do? Really, we can't do much because it was done before. But the trick here is that when timber permits expire and the permit holder withdraws and goes back, and then for some reason later they apply and the timber permit extended, and they want to come back and use the same log pond, this is where you apply it. Okay, we need to be very, very strict on this one, because only then can we improve. Otherwise, we will go back to the same, you know. So what you need to do is that, okay, you've gone back already, you rehabilitated it. When you're coming back, stick to the requirements of the new code. All right? And the minimum requirements on buffer and the size of the log pond must apply here. This you must be very strict on. All right? So that's the only way when we can control and rehabilitate and manage these log ponds. Okay. This includes river dams as well. Some log ponds are constructed along river dams. I don't know about islands region, but in southern region there's a lot of log ponds along the river dams. And most of them are just out of, it's totally non-compliant. So we need to enforce this code. If the permit expires and they go away, when they come back, let's apply this one. Don't allow the excuse, oh, we've been here before. This is where we built our staff house. This is where our tent. Yeah, I'm before, but now you come, you comply with the logging code. No more this nonsense. All right? So in the old code, let's say this is the shoreline. Volta. Okay, shoreline. So, DY, mangrove, or whatever you call it, or anything. So this should be about how many? Huh? The log pond should be here. All right? Buffer should be 100 meters. 100 meters. This is the buffer. At the back of the buffer should be the log pond, right? We need to emphasize this when the company is trying to come back. They have to rehabilitate this when they are trying to pick up and go. We need to emphasize it. I don't know if there's a system in place now within PNGFA, but if we have to strictly comply with the code, we need to get them to rehabilitate. Even if they say, but this log pond was done before the code, that's okay. But now the new code is here. You are finishing the operation, rehabilitate it, and so that you enforce them. Make sure that they rehabilitate. After 5 years, they might apply and get the timber permit renewed because there's some still. They will come back again and say, our log pond will be at the same place. Oh, fine, that's good. Now you have to plant the log pond properly. You already planted some trees. Make sure that you plant it in a way that these trees that you planted must be maintained. You get the idea? Okay, so this must be enforced. You have to enforce it. That's your job. Otherwise, you are not enforcing the code. All right? Finish, huh? Okay. No, this is a log landing. Log landing. Log landing and forest health. Yeah, log landings and forest health. Two more. Very short ones. It's just a few slides on
What for that one? You are referring to the log pond that are customarily owned by the landowner. In such cases where the company has title over the land where the log pond is situated.
very good question. I don't know how to answer that because they have the right to do whatever they want to do with their land. Maybe that can be discussed. We should find a way to address that. But a very good point. Because you cannot go and tell them what to do on their own land.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So,
absolutely. I think it's not the issue of the land, but it's about the environmental land. So we should have, I think, we should have the control over how much we can allow them to construct development. We cannot give them that.
Okay.
We concern about the environment issues.
Yes, yes.
That's where our point is. But it's customary or title land, still have to apply it.
Thank you.
Yes, you are right. Your question is very right. What if a customary land? And then in our procedures, what we should do is, even if a customary land, we should go ahead with our code as well. Go with the landowners, advise them, tell them that this is the code. Unless and until you agree to it, we will not be able to allow. Yeah, that's what. Unless and you agree to it, then we will. But if you don't agree to it, then we will not allow it to happen. Because, example like this is a law that we are enforcing, and we got to stick to the law that we. So it's a standard across the board. It's not only one operation is that we gonna. It's across the board that all operations are going to be affected. So, in the case of land is owned by a company or whoever, then we go to apply same procedures, same law, so that it becomes a standard throughout the country. And it's uniform, it becomes good. But if we do it on one basis only, then that means the others will not be able to, as you can see. They will regard as we are failing the system or we're failing our code. So my opinion is, in that case, during our planning, we got to advise them, stick to our rules and tell them all that this is what applies, and we got to comply to the laws of the code, apply to the code. That's what I should say.
Thank you, Dano. I think one clear example would be the one we will visit tomorrow,
Exactly.
SPLC. I think the company, that's company land, and they may have other structures there already,
Exactly.
and we cannot apply this code on their land. So this is where that's coming from, all right? Which is very interesting. So, yeah. It's something to you as project supervisors, you as provincial managers, you have a fair idea on your area, the history of that area, so you make decision based on your knowledge about it.
I think Simon, we have the authority. We will look at our own authority. What we are doing, we have the authority and we want to ensure we enforce. If we cannot do it, that means our system that we have established is already collapsing. It's collapsing against the questions that we are trying to move. So to standardize, to become as uniform, whether it's a company land, it's a land, customary land, or whatever, we apply that. It's covered. I don't see any problem with pushing it. I don't see a problem.
Mr. Kindi, I agree with you. Regardless which company land, we must know that surrounding the area there are communities. So it will affect the communities. Number two is that as long as permit is over the area, we have the authority to apply our rules until when the permit is over and we go away, they can do whatever they want. Thank you.
The other thing we need to be mindful of is the Environmental Planning Act. Alright. Okay, these companies like SPLC have a plan, environmental permit. They may have already indicated that in their permit, that they will clear this area for this building, this infrastructure. So when we try to apply our code, it's just clashing against the environmental requirements. So, like I said, it's an issue that we need to make decisions based on site specification. Anyway, log landings, very short. It's not a new thing, so I don't have to go through it. But basically, you know, you have to make sure that they are located in well-drained soil, not more than 2,500 square meters. Must be or should be safe and efficient. Safe and efficient meaning in location to where the felling is going to be. Right? It has to be closer to where the actual logs are going to be put out. When John mentioned about the distance of the skid tracks, that actually refers to this. How long are you going to allow that skid track to be used? How far is it going to go and bring the logs in? We need to make those type of judgments and decisions. So as much as possible, we try to shorten the distance of pulling the logs by having probably skid tracks next to where the logs are going to be felled. It's no good establishing a landing here and the logs are going to be pulled out 1 kilometer away. It doesn't make sense. So, management decisions. No more than 3 log landing space set up. Of course, this applies to, flat areas, but in most of our projects, we tend to have, mountainous areas. So, in that case, roadside landings are allowed. They are allowed. These are not a meeting, so you all know. But just ensure that any roadside landings must not go over the 40-meter corridor. That's the most important part. If you are allowing roadside landings, you ensure that it's within that 40-meter corridor. It's all straightforward. Yeah. Simple. Same. So it's very straightforward, so I don't have to. Yeah. These are very similar and similar to the old code, so there's nothing new. Keep going. That's all. We talk very short. Okay, last one. Forest health. Next one, I think only one slide or 2 slides. I know you're tired, so. Just only that one. Now, in dry season, in 1997, there was a very dry season. Plenty of forests were burnt, and I was in southern region that time, and we had a very big fire in the Wawukwanu. Nearly half of the forest was burnt. I'm pretty sure you had your own experiences in your own regions here, but a lot of these fires were carelessness by the operators. So this code here is trying to address that. So, in droughts or high fire danger, all machineries and equipments should be checked for any fire hazard. Machines can create fires, short circuit, maybe something like that. All crews should have communication equipments in working order. Nowadays we have mobile phones, but in the past they used to have radios. Radios even on vehicles. Forestry used to have radios on vehicles when we were in Bololo. Really, really impressive. I used to really admire. Now, no smoking is permitted in forest during high fire danger. One of the fires that started in Kamusi was because of that. Some careless smoker threw a smoke bath or whatever in the bush now. Fire started. And you as foresters, please try to ensure that this is, especially time low, sun. I know, smoke is very hard to control, but this Indian law forestry. And at the log landings, most times you see our operators cooking the lunch, or tea or coffee. What you around people do, black coffee. Yeah? This one must be really managed very well because fire can start. Oh, good. Okay, next. Straightforward. Okay. Straightforward. Yep. All the rubbish, fuel filters, grease cans should be removed and disposed of. Figure 32 will show you what is meant by that. All non-organic waste products such as parts, waste oil must be removed from forest and disposed of at designated sites. Many log landings, even along the roadsides, you see a lot of parts, broken parts or those blade or this another code. It's not allowed to be there. It should be removed and placed in the designated sites.
So it's a log pond.
And the log pond as well. Log pond, log landing. We need to enforce this. Our friends, the Greenpeace and environmentalists, every time they go, they look for this type of things to create noise about us. So we need to be very mindful about that. Next, weeds and pests. A lot of times, many companies have operations not only here but maybe in Raval or in Alotao. They start shifting machineries here and there. So most times they just load it on the pontoon barge now. Simple. But the code requires that before it even leaves West New Britain to go to Alotao, for instance, it should be thoroughly cleaned, washed before getting onto the pontoon to go. So that you don't introduce pests that we in Alotao don't have and you have. Keep it here, don't bring it there. And your approval must be signed, obtained before they get shipped. Recently, one of our operations in Woodland, machinery from here, Western Britain went there and then brought all the exotic weeds there. Now, Woodland will complain, and that's what you guys will have to make sure that you clean your machines, wash them all before you start in company. Okay, likewise, all skid houses. Skid houses, we all know about it. Next. Oh, everything. Thank you. And that's all.